Good morning, Stephan.
Good morning, Jamie.
Hey,
Here we are.
our audio
Another
works.
Thursday number 29
I think
or
so.
episode 29.
It is episode 29, and it is the 29th of December, incidentally, 2022.
Ah, kis- Kismet.
You know what? And it's funny because I don't like to timestamp them usually. Like episode is great because that's general, right? But it's happened a couple times where it falls exactly on a date. I don't know. And I think that's fun.
Yeah, I
uh,
like it.
well, we're right in between two holidays, two US holidays at least, I guess big holidays.
Yes. Many bad decisions have been made.
Yeah, on your
Many about.
part.
Oh no.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
no,
I'm
no,
like, how
I
are
don't.
you doing?
I don't think so. No. Many bad decisions have been made. Many good decisions have been made. And people will be hopefully leaving those bad decisions and bad ideas in the dust.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
But
It's a fresh start today, every day.
it is every day that, and we talked about that. That's the benefit of a night of sleep.
Yeah, right. Fresh start in the morning. I did
Yeah.
a post about that. One of my little coffee doodles where I was, so my dad used to be like, resolutions, and I was like, what's up with that, Dad? And he's like, start right now. Start today. Why wait for this big monumental moment? Why put things off when you could just start right now? And it always kind of stuck
Oh,
with me.
yeah. I think having some date where you decide to make a change in your life absolves you from the opportunity that is there every
Yeah.
single day, and it's not one giant action that gets us somewhere, right?
No,
It's
it's
a
the chipping away.
series.
Yeah.
It's series of very meticulous series of thoughts and patterns and practice that gets us anywhere.
Yeah, that's I think back in the tiny challenges era of my life, which I still am very regularly doing. My coffee doodles to me are still a tiny challenge. I don't do them every day. I would like to do them every day, but there are days when they just don't happen. And that's okay. Like I'm okay with it, but every day that I miss one, the next day I'm like, okay, set it back, get it back on track. And then, I do as many as I can until it happens again that I miss one. The holidays have definitely been a greater challenge for me to keep up with a daily anything, just with the sheer volume of things on my plate. And, like moving into, I don't know, moving forward from that, it's like you always learn when you're in it, right? You kind of go, whoa, I took on some things. Now I realize I've taken on too many things. And now I have to like work through it until you're through it. And then, okay, now I have a moment to breathe again. How do I not repeat that and maybe learn from what, like reassess and then grow from there, grow forward from there. And so I've been in a lot of that, like sort of the pause between. I think I like this time of year for exactly that. There's a moment where I can just breathe, and there's the rush of Black Friday all the way up until basically December 24th, and then it calms down. And for us, and then I don't know, the space between then and now um is a time to kind of regroup and rethink and kind of, I don't know, just like ponder, if that makes sense, just like sit with it.
Yeah, I've been taking great pleasure in less,
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
less of everything, and I didn't realize how much I would enjoy it till I got to Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, because we had held Christmas Day, Christmas. Our Christmas German Christmas is Christmas Eve. So we usually gather on Christmas Eve, and This time we gathered on Christmas Eve.
Mhm.
Well, at any rate, we gathered on Thursday
Okay. Yeah.
because my brother and his wife and the three kids and the two dogs, they decided to drive to Montana on Friday to visit my brother's in-laws,
Nice.
which was very brave. Some would call it crazy because it was the peak of the ice,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Stormageddon uh, bomb cyclone ice storm. We had an ice storm on the west
I
side of the
saw
mountains and
that.
snowstorm on the,
Yeah.
yeah, it was something. So my brother was on the road, and
Wow.
then they didn't make it to Montana, but that's his adventure, not mine. And my adventure happened to involve a whole lot of doing nothing because we had Christmas on our version of Christmas Eve on Thursday. And then Friday and the rest of the weekend, I went rock climbing. And then I came home. I cooked a lamb roast over the weekend. And then there were all manner of football games, basketball games on. I had one beer.
All right.
Right.
I can't
One
even do that
beer.
anymore. And
What's
I can't even do
that?
one beer. I can do like a margarita or a tequila, but beer, I can't do beer anymore.
I have to do it on an empty stomach.
Oh,
It's
wow.
kind of like the beer is kind of a meal
It
for
is the
me.
meal. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the meal.
It's like
It's the
eating a
carb.
loaf of bread.
Eat,
Yeah.
eating a loaf of bread. Yep, that's what I did. I ate a loaf of bread. But I really enjoyed the quiet.
Yeah.
And then I got on the phone and I talked to people who I haven't talked to in a long
Oh,
while,
that's really nice.
and wrote little notes to the people that I haven't connected with in a while, and then just enjoyed the doing nothing, just
Yeah.
not having any agenda whatsoever. And frankly, I got a lot done.
Yeah.
Got my desk cleared, got emails done. I mean, just because I didn't force myself, I didn't ask myself to do those things. They just naturally, it's like, oh, I got some time now. I'll just clear my desk, or
Yeah.
I can put this laundry away.
The
And
say as I look at my
so,
desk, I'm like, "Ooh, my desk." I love that. And I feel like we had a similar experience. I don't know if with all the things going on at the shop. Well, let me back up further. In previous years, um, decorating for Christmas just got overwhelming for me personally. So like we have cats, the cats would attack the tree, and then we had to be really mindful about what we put out, and then it just became unfun. And then over time it was just exhausting, right? Like I felt like I was setting it up for me and like that nobody else really cared. So like the last, I don't know. So first, like we got rid of the big tree, and then we went to like a tree this big, which was fun and funny. It made it fun. And then we had for the tree stand was a giant cardboard box that we wrapped to look like a gift. Like, so the tree is this big on a box that's like this big, right? So, um,
did
and
the
it
cats attack that too?
no, they left that one alone for the most part. So
Okay.
that part was good. But then like so this year though, it was just like I'm busy. I was busier than normal. Like, as picture this got busier than it has been since 2018. But I also have another work project that I'm pretty much full time on. And so it was just like all of a sudden I had like a lot of work to do, and the kids and School of Rock and all of the things, and so like I just didn't even think about decorating this year. Like it was just not even on the radar. And one night we came home and the girls had gone out to like the dollar store and Goodwill, and they found stuff because like our supplies, even our Christmas supplies, are in storage at the Picture This office. I have no idea where, but so it was just one of those things. But we came home and they had decorated, and they bought like playful gifts, and wrapped them all. And like, it was just it was fun and sweet. And, my daughters are 17 and 13. And for them to like own it, they owned Christmas this year and they made it. It was almost like they reversed the script, right? Like Ken and I were the kids and they were the parents that made Christmas magical for us. And it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. And by the time we got to Christmas, I think Christmas Eve, I had, everything stopped. So we closed the office for the first time ever. We closed, picture this, for 3 days. We've never been closed for 3 days in a row ever, but we closed it for 3 days. It made sense. Saturday, Sunday, and then the Monday that followed. We've just never done it before. So yeah, we took 3 days off. I was off. And so I played games on my iPad. We made delicious food. We sat around, we talked, we hung out, we slept, we just got outside a little. Like, I don't know, it was perfect. It was perfect to me.
That sounds like the true joy of Christmas right there. And
it was awesome.
And Christmas logistics were delegated to the younger generation.
I loved it. Yeah. I mean, they did everything.
It became their Christmas.
It right? Really
the Christmas was. the Christmas they wanted, right? Or the Christmas they created. That sounds magnificent.
I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. And we, like our thing, once they got old enough, like they would prefer to just go, if we're going to give them things, just give them cash and let them go buy some things that they want and that they choose. It gives them a little more independence. And so like, it just always feels so hollow as a mother to do that. Like, you feel like you want it to be something that it's very care invested. And yet when, they get to have an experience like going and just doing what they want for a few hours or whatever, that I guess I liked that experience at that age too. So I get it, but yeah, it's good. And then yesterday was also a quiet day, but I spent 5 hours with our tax CPA moving books for 4 companies, and it was awesome. I know that sounds terrible to say, weird maybe, but like it was awesome because it's progress. Like it's massive progress for us.
For this nerd, sitting with a CPA, a competent CPA, and organizing the business creates a great deal of relief and joy
and excitement, right? Like possibility and vision. That's how I felt. I was just like sitting with her because we haven't done this for a while. Like we always, we're very good at paying all our things and doing all our things and filing all our things. But we had been on one bookkeeping system for a while and it was very limiting. And we realized it about 2 years ago, but finally realizing what we needed to do and like kind of just facing like what felt a little overwhelming, like 4 companies, we got to move them all over. But she guided us through everything. Yeah.
Was this moving from bench to another system?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And bench has been great. It was great for the smaller size of things, but now the way that we're doing things and investing in new ideas, bench didn't give us, it was very limited in what we could actually go in and do very quickly. Everything we needed to do, you have to put in a request and wait for them to do it, their bookkeepers to do it. And it didn't, it wasn't working for us anymore. So I think it worked great for us for, years 1 through 4, and then years 4.5 through now 6. It was just time to grow into, we grew out of what bench was able to do for us. So like, no, I don't have anything negative to say about bench. It was great for us for a certain period of time. It was kind of like WooCommerce, right? Like WooCommerce got us launched, but then it wasn't able to meet our needs after a certain point. And so we ended up building our own system because nothing out there was really great for supporting one-of-a-kind things that we were doing, every order being one of a kind. It was just, there wasn't anything out there at the time doing what we needed. So we built our own. Expensive, time consuming.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. We will, because we started a long time ago and a number of businesses, I've used bench for a number of businesses, but we We also have used Bench for Where Next, and we are also at that point where we
It's
might be,
time. Yeah.
it might be time.
Yeah.
So that's good information to hear.
Yeah. I
And
do like
for,
when we can talk a little
and
shop here.
yeah, well, and for any young entrepreneur or any old entrepreneur or new entrepreneur starting their business, a system like Bench is amazing because you have professional accountants
Bookkeepers. Yep.
doing
Yeah.
bookkeepers doing working with you, and you can talk to them every month. You can give a call every month, and you can and they will learn your business over time. They learn your business and learn what buckets to put things into.
Yeah.
And I would say that every month I could go on a bench and there might only be, let's say, 3 to 5 different things that I would need to personally
Yeah.
organize
Yeah.
or reorganize if they were put in the wrong bucket. And it gave me a great sense of relief to have a
Same.
competent, trustworthy system behind me. It just made tax filing every month so easy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Doing
that
the all of that. Yeah. I agree.
it was it was
I
it
I
was
had a
really good.
similar experience. And I do think too, I mean, and maybe the focus of this one is like starting new ideas too, right? Like for us, often we put a lot of ideas out there, some succeed, some don't. And so like something to get started really quick and easily. QuickBooks at the time was too overwhelming for me to like figure out. It just seemed overwhelming, but that's what we ended up moving to. So we moved from Bench to QuickBooks Online, the online version of QuickBooks, and there are several levels of that. We're in like the second level, I think, and if we need more than that, we'll upgrade as we go. But there's still room to grow within QuickBooks, right? So like we don't need the top of the very end QuickBooks thing, but we have between Ken and I 4 active companies and then a lot of ideas that we're seeding, and we seed those with personal money. We've never taken outside investment. And so, yeah, like now we have a way to scale that and to understand how to incubate and grow these ideas. And if they, fizzle out, we're still under this sort of one umbrella to start. And then as things, as we drop in the little seeds and we water them, we incubate them. If they grow, we're able to move them out. They taught us kind of how to do that. They taught us how to plan to look good on paper if we want to buy a building, which is a goal someday. And so yeah, just like how to like start looking good on paper in certain ways, and just things to kind of like goals and aspirations, but along with the reality of where we're at, and just trying to, I don't think we're not in bad shape at all. It was just like it's time. We're growing, we're bursting at the seams at our current way of doing things, and it's time to create a little space again.
Yeah, it's great to have the right tools, and it's even better to have the most competent people around us
Yeah.
hired. There's nothing like a great hired gun like a
Oh
CPA,
my gosh, I have to tell you,
who
I love our guy. We have a guy and I work with Kayla. So it's like Mark and Kayla, but I didn't mean to
yeah.
cut you off. I get excited about them though, because that's such a huge, I worked with an accountant. I have to tell you, when we launched Picture This, we worked with a different accountant. Somebody had referred, good friend said, work with this guy. I worked with this other guy. I actually left the guy that I loved because it was this new viral business. And I was like, maybe we need bigger guns because my friend told me we did. And oh my gosh, every time I talked to this accountant, Stephan, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I was stressed out and like, we're doing everything wrong. And, it was just, and so after 1 year, went back to the original guy and I was like, ah, and he's like, oh, it's okay. Like, you're actually like, okay, we can move this and move this. And he's like, this is optional. You don't have to do it this way. You can, but you also could do it this way or this way. And I think that's what I love about the guy that the team that I have right now is they look at things and go, well, yeah, okay, so here's like hardcore. but then there's also, you know, this way or this way or this way that are still very correct, not, you know, not pushing any lines or boundaries of legality, but, you know, just like other ways to think of it, which I love.
Yeah. So important, so important. And we talked about this last week. You have to find people who are better than you. We have to find people who are better
Yeah,
than us at
man.
every single thing.
At every single
Super
thing.
at every single thing in the business. We need to have somebody who's better. And bes- people underestimate the importance of accounting. Accounting is the absolute foundation of the business.
Yes, it is.
It is the only place you get unfiltered, super clear information about the health of your business.
Yeah.
Everything else is conjecture, fantasy, imagination, right? It's like, let's look at the books.
The
How
books will
much do
tell
we
you. Yeah.
spend on this? How much did we make? What are we spending on these subcontractors?
Yep.
What are we spending on our employees?
Yeah.
And what spend on this campaign? How much did we sell on this campaign? All of these things come from the accounting system, having a good accounting system.
And
And
that setup is so crucial. Yeah.
yes, and yeah, un, and well, accounting is the ultimate framework for the business because
Hmm.
there is no one method of accounting. It's like we decide which metrics, which bucket we want to create for our business. I want to track how much we spend on this. I want to track how much we spend on this. This part isn't important. We can just group all those things together,
And that
right? Like
was a
there's
big, yeah, that was a big
right.
part of yesterday too. And, you know, and I feel like this, even though like, this is a little tactical business conversation, but I feel like it's really important in how it connects to sort of your own personal frameworks too, right? And like the importance of like what you were saying, right? These categories and grouping things together, but you can dive down into a category and make it as granular as you want or need to give you a clearer picture. And that's exactly what we've been, you know, like what I spent 5 hours and 12 minutes was where the clock stopped yesterday. And, you know, and I was like, it was exhausting and my brain was so tired at the end of the day, but I left feeling like, yeah, we're so ready for 2023 now, you know? And I just like, I felt good. And I love that feeling. And it's because of exactly what you're saying. It's like this framework has been like, we've built a framework over time that we've outgrown. And now we kind of like dumped it out, took it apart, looked at it, and then put it back together in a way that made sense for growing forward. And that to me is like so relevant to what we talk about all the time, right? Like whether it's frameworks or when you need to let go of a framework entirely and rethink things. But you know, with money, it's good to have a structure. I just got so excited about I mean, it seems silly to me, but like it's very exciting because it's possibility and it's hope and it's optimism. And those are some of my favorite things.
Well, I can tell that you have an unbridled excitement about it. I would too. And also I can get excited about it because I have interest
Yes, you
in your
do.
I actually have a business
You have some
interest in picture this
percentage.
success. I have some percentages.
You sure do. You sure do. And that's, you
But
know, like, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, look, more so than the business plan, the accounting structure is the guidance system of the business plan,
Yeah.
and the accounting system is the framework that needs to reflect the business plan, right?
Yeah.
And if the accounting system is showing certain things that aren't in the business plan, then the business plan needs to be fixed, right?
Exactly. And that, you know, and that's really like, I think such a huge part of it too is like, it's not just, you know, things out of somebody's head, right? Like this is the reality of things. And man, I don't know, to me, after going through things yesterday, I'm looking at our year after having several years of Ken and I putting $250,000 into keeping it alive, to have a year where we just about broke even was actually awesome. I mean, it was like right there. So it was, that was really cool. And when you look at like the actual expenses and stuff that most of them were seeding new ideas. So it was not even like that picture this isn't profitable. In reality, it was profitable this year. But a lot of, a lot of what we had put in, instead of taking money back out of it to pay ourselves back, we just put it back into new ideas. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And the thing is you wouldn't have known about your success had you not had a good accounting system, right? You would
Exactly.
have said, oh, we
It's,
ended the year just break even, but you put money into R&D, right, you took care, you're growing the business, you're investing in the business, and you wouldn't know that unless you had a really good accounting system.
well, and that's
And the
even,
other
go ahead.
well, the other thing I would add to that, especially for services businesses, is having a great legal advice,
Yeah.
having somebody who can help you build all the contracts that get you the money that eventually you account for,
Yeah,
right? Like
for
that.
sure.
And that's the classic Mike Montero, right?
Yep.
The presentation that everyone in the creative industry knows about. And for any entrepreneurs who might be listening, um, this is the other thing that's super important, is just having great contracts, having a great legal structure, and being confident as to who owns the business, how do you get paid, how do your clients interact with you, and what are your clients responsible for, and what are you responsible for. And that all comes down to writing a great contract and enforcing the contract, the rules, and creating rules for your business. And so I'm speaking for Jamie and me at this point, and I would say, Jamie, we would recommend that anyone who's starting a new business watch Mike Montero of
Yeah.
Mule Design. He
Yeah.
is the founder of Mule Design. Watch
Creator.
his presentation. It's called "Fuck You, Pay Me."
Hmm. Oh, he's got a lot of good stuff out there. I got to, I don't know if you know this, but I spoke in a lineup with Mike. Man,
I think I remember.
I've been with a couple times, but I feel like we became pretty, well connected, and we got to ride rides with him at Disney World with him and his wife Erica. And um, I only knew who Mike Montero was because of Ken. Ken was like, we should bring him when we were at Zappos, and we did a visiting artist series, and
Oh yeah.
we ended up leaving before we got Mike out there. But then over time, I ended up in a lineup as a speaker at the same conference he was a speaker at, and we just became really good friends. I would dare to say. But yeah, he actually, it was great after he met Ken. He did a thing. Ken was in the audience when he spoke, when Mike did his talk. This is at Disney World, and the audience was big. And anyway, he read like 5 designer names of designers. He goes, if these designers would please stand up. And he's like, da 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 da, Ken Finney. And he had Ken stand up. And then he asked everybody in the room to just give him a round of applause. And like, so like the whole room is clapping for Ken Finney. And he was just like, oh, but it was so sweet and so beautiful. And it was just like, these are designers that are, like, trying to do a good job out here. Right? Like, I don't remember exactly how he framed it, but it was really neat. And it was quite an honor. This is somebody who'd been kind of a hero of Ken's, and here he was. He asked Ken to stand up during his talk and give him a round of applause. And then we got a really great video clip of Mike saying, "Fuck you, Ken Finney," which was amazing. Also.
All
Yeah.
right, so that's the primer for anybody starting a business, especially anything that, well, actually any any new entrepreneur,
Yep.
that I would say that's probably one of the top things you need to understand about your business is the importance of having good contracts and having good legal advice. And
Yeah.
then really what we've been talking about all along here is having good accounting and being meticulous about accounting and getting into a habit of being meticulous about accounting. And there is no one accounting style or solution that fits all. The accounting reflects the business and the business plan and the goals. And so the goals in the business should have similar goals in accounting that reflect what you are wanting to track, what is important to the health and the growth of the business. And we're very lucky in Where Next, because we have somebody who is is a graduate student in accounting. I mean, he was a graduate student a long time ago, but he's been an entrepreneur in Colombia. So, and he is Colombian, but went to college in the United States, has worked in the United States. And so he's familiar with the languages, the cultures, and he is a professional in every way. And he is effectively our director of operations and our in-house CFO at our Columbia office, but he's basically managing the accounting for the entire firm. And it's really great to have somebody who not only understands the business, but also the cultures in which we operate and the systems in the two different cultures that we operate and the language. So it's really, it probably at the beginning, Greg would say this too, it's what's kept Where Next alive, having somebody just monitoring what was happening with the money,
Yeah.
where
I
it was
mean,
going, and then how to pay uh, the founder back for his investment, how to get out of debt, just where to take money, where and when to take money, when to trade money, because we're also trading money between the United States and Colombia. So we're
oh,
doing
right.
forms of
Currencies
arbitrage,
and
right? Like,
yeah.
yeah, like when do we, like let's wait a few days because I think the dollar's going up or the Colombian peso is going down, and let's trade that money when it's favorable. Things like that. Somebody just paying attention to the the gas tank, essentially,
I love
right? The
that.
cash is the gas tank for the business.
Here's something I'm gonna like. I actually love the small business talk or business talk, right? Like I feel like but and like how it really like my mind is always connecting it back to like the structures of personal growth too, right? But like when we talk about accounting and how important the numbers are and the things that like, do you have kind of a left turn here, but like, do you have a system for documenting or tracking personal growth? Like, do you do anything like accounting for yourself or is it just like my body is my accounting and it tells me when, or, I mean, like, how do you operate?
Wow, that is such a good question.
And I
There,
ask, oh, go ahead.
when you no, it's just such a great question because the first, when you mention my body is my accounting system, that's probably the primary way. And the the way I track it is by how much joy I'm experiencing at any given moment. That's the most fundamental way. As far as metrics, like having a metric or a tracking system, I would say right now that the most useful system for me is rock climbing, because I go to the gym 3 times a week minimally, or that's my goal typically, 3 times a week, and I do a certain number of laps up and down. I will do, for those of you who rock climb, a pitch is one length of rope or one length of a particular climb. So I will do 27 to 36 laps in the gym, which is anywhere from, let's say, 1,400 or 1,300 vertical feet to 1,800 vertical feet of climbing. And then I will do certain grades of climbs during this period and see how well I do, how much endurance I have, and how hard I can climb. So there's a grading system in the gym.
Yeah.
And so I know if I'm getting stronger because, like, the what brought me great joy over this holiday was I met a bunch of my pals and we went to the North Gym. And in succession, I climbed a route that was 11D, and then I climbed one that was 12A right afterwards. So that's been close to my limit for a very long time, but I did those in succession, and I did them on the first go
Woo!
cleanly. I flashed them essentially. And for someone who's 61, that's pretty darn good. And for me, it's pretty darn good because I'm not necessarily built like a climber. I'm a little taller and a little heavier than most people who are, let's say, professional or people I would consider super exceptional climbers. But for me, that level of strength and fitness and endurance is something that in which I take great joy, and that's progress. And that's the thing that I love about sports is it's really easy to track progress, and in climbing especially, it's really easy to see how my mental attitude affects my physical performance.
Yeah.
Like just being open to trying something that's super hard. And one of my climbing cohorts on Team Geezer. There's a bunch of us who are over 60. He just is relentless. He's in the gym 5 days a week. I couldn't really do that because I need to recover
Yeah.
between these sessions. So I probably climb a lot more volume than he does in less days. But he is always trying harder stuff, always just pushing the limit. So I just follow him around the gym, and it's like, if Eric can do it, maybe I can do it.
Yeah.
Or if Eric's trying it, I'm going to try it because
That's cool.
it'll be super fun if we both
Yeah.
finish the climb. So that is one way I track. But what I don't have, and I think what you're getting at here, is a system for tracking progress in my vocational or my career, my business life. I don't have a system necessarily for that because I think I'm to most people I might be flying by the seat of my pants most of the
You know what? And
time.
I have felt similar. I think for me, like it's funny when I started working with Play Studios, and this is something like in when I started working with Play Studios, I every day I keep a daily log of what I like. It's like my three things, right? It's like what I want to do today, what I did, and what's next. And then I have a little section for notes and needs at the bottom. And usually those are blank, but sometimes I have little notes and needs in there. But I just like copy and paste that into every single day. And every single day I have a log. And I like, I start my day, my work day with filling out here's what I hope to accomplish today. And then at the close of my day, I bookend it with here's what I actually did. And here's what I plan to do tomorrow. And then then tomorrow comes, I copy it, paste it into my new log. I move my list, update my list of here. Anyway, it rolls every day, but like it's I've done this before. Like, so that's a method that started for me back when I worked at state parks as a park ranger. And like what I loved about it was like for us at the end of the summer, like at the start of the summer, they'd give park rangers, we'd have our little book, right? It was like a state of Nevada book. This is my Play Studios book, but but yeah, we'd have like a little book, and every day we needed to log like what we were doing and what we the same three things that I just went through. And what was great about that is every week we had to provide a report to headquarters of what we had done, and then every month we had to provide a report to the state agency. So we had like the district agency and then the state agency. So region 5, we were in region 5 of the Nevada State Park System. And so yeah, we did that, and then we did the but what you had is like, as the head park ranger, he could go through our logbooks and go, okay, we did this, 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 and this. And he would compile the list for the weeklies. And then from the weeklies, he could compile a monthly. And it was always very like, man, we did a lot of stuff. But he had started that. It wasn't something that all the park rangers did or had their seasonal rangers do. It was something that Eric did, our head ranger. And it was something that I just loved. When we got to the end of the summer, we had this book, and we had to leave them at the park, but like we had this book of we could just go back, and it was footprints in the snow essentially, right? It was
Uh,
footprints where we could look back at how far we had come and how much. I mean, we restored over 4 seasons, we restored an 1800s stone cabin from, it was just completely crumbled stone. We rebuilt this thing, had it furnished, and created a museum out of it, right? Like in 4 seasons. And it was just like things like that. Those were just side projects that we were doing along the way, but we had documentation of every stone that was placed and every, so that was a system that I really, even in my coaching practice, that I encourage people to start doing, because the footprints are, it's something that helps you really. I feel like it's very easy sometimes to get a little lost and feel like you've not made any progress. And sometimes like I rely on how I feel and my, how do I look in my jeans this year or this month or whatever, how do they fit? They're still fitting, I'm all right. They are stretchy jeans, but anyway, but like there's sometimes it's like, in the weight loss journey, there's photos, right? And like taking a starting photo and then actually doing daily or weekly photos, and you can see real progress. Whereas you might get 4 weeks down the road and think nothing's happened, nothing's changed. But if you can look at where you started, you have real tangible evidence. And that's what the daily log is for me too. And so it's like, you know what, I have done some things. Just flip through my daily log and you can see like, I don't know. So like, I don't know, that's a method, but I'm always curious about other people's methods of tracking.
well, here's the thing. It depends on what you decide is important and what you
Mm-hmm.
decide. What's your definition of progress? For me, progress isn't necessarily, certainly in business, there are material things that need to happen and change,
Sure.
no doubt. And tracking them and checking them off the list is really wonderful and can be bolstering, and the footprints, and to celebrate the footprints in the snow, and then to celebrate where we have arrived. Those things are important. For me personally, it is about how I feel about where we're at. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about the material. It's how I feel. How is everyone feeling in the business? Uh, how how are they emotionally? How are they, period? Not how you are, not what you've done, but how you are. What you've done gets you or reflects how you are, right? If somebody's nervous or worried about certain aspects of the business, what they do is going to be different than how what they do for the business is going to be different than if they are confident
Mm-hmm.
and and in themselves and the direction they've chosen for the business. And so part of that is looking at the tools. Am I allowed to be confident? Take a look at the accounting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But getting back to this kind of tracking, or we've had we could look at our accounting several different ways. And if, depending on how we look at it and the state of mind in which we look at it, we could be worried or we could feel really confident about our
Yeah.
business, right? So it is so, so it's important to note that even tracking, even tracking is arbitrary.
It's
Even in
funny.
accounting, even in
Yeah.
accounting, tracking is arbitrary because we have uh and especially when you're looking at projections, oh great, we have $300,000 coming in over the next 3 months, but we have to hire all these people and we're doing this
Your
and that,
expenses go
and
up with it. Yeah. It's
expenses are going up and we're not used to having so many expenses, so then we worry, and so we put the focus on the expenses
yeah. Yep.
instead of putting the focus on the money coming in, or we aren't confident about the money coming in continuing. And so, again, these points of view are arbitrary. And so the tools are only as effective as the point of view and how you use them. So
That's interesting. Yeah, because it is. And it's funny because when you were saying that, I was thinking back on, in the user experience practice and content strategy practices, you're looking at data a lot, right? A lot of data to inform your next decision. And I think businesses are that way in general, but like in the social media realm and design, you look at data and you use it to inform your next decision often, in balance with intuition and knowledge and skill and all of that stuff. But like data helps drive. But when you're looking at data, sometimes you can decide that it's this way or that way. Like you can kind of like, I need data that proves this case. Well, you can probably find data that proves that case. And then on the counter, you can find data that proves the counter case, right? I love that, like that there's the notion of sometimes it's just your mindset, and you need to have your mindset in the place that it needs to be if you're ever going to make any forward progress. I don't
well,
know
I
if
mean,
that's
confirmation bias infects everything we do.
yeah.
And so the best we can do is to be present and clear and just look at all the information and decide, what do I want to do with the information?
Yeah.
And the tools are just information, but we do want to have good tools.
And good
And I
information,
guess
right? Like
well, yeah, you want accurate information, but again, we choose, even in accounting, right? We choose what buckets we want to create and what measures we want to watch in the
yeah,
business,
what's
and then you
important,
can,
yeah,
what's
to us.
important,
Yeah.
we decide. Yeah. And let's hope that we decide what's important to us is also important to the marketplace and that the
Right.
two are congruent.
It is funny because like going back to the like my accounting adventure yesterday, it was great when she, like she was going through our bench stuff and kind of going, oh, if you had this category here, you actually are more profitable because this is a cost of goods, not just a regular expense category. Like it's a cost of goods. And she's like, that's like
Yes.
$25,000 that could be here, and instead, are you okay with moving that? And I was like, yes. Like that makes us look way better already. And so it's just stuff
Yeah.
like that, like having her look through it. And um Kayla was awesome, man. But yeah, like but it's that sort of what do you do with the information once you have it, right? Like when I saw the like sort of, we still have a few days left in this month, so we have to wait a couple weeks to reconcile fully. But you can kind of get a pretty good idea of how 2022 was, right? And we were $1,200 shy of being a break even, which for, if you look at the $100,000 we were shy in previous years, you know, um, that feels pretty darn good. Um, and so, yeah,
Yeah,
like
for
when I
sure.
saw that, I mean, you could look at it and go, oh, we still were below zero or whatever. But like, I'm so excited that it was only like $1,200. I was like, woo. But it's that
Yeah.
perspective, right? Like, because it's progress. Like, I think, this is where most companies could use in like they seek investment, right? To stay afloat. When we didn't need to seek investment, we were able to keep it afloat on our own. And while all the while you question, right? Like, is this, should we be keeping it open? Is this what
Well,
we want to
yeah.
do? And, you
Well,
question every move along the way.
well, and again, the business is there to serve you, the founder, right? It's
You
there
hope
to serve, the
so.
business is there. The business is there as a creative outlet for you, for Ken, for me, even, right? That it's there to serve the people who decided to come together and create it. And so the goal should be, how do I feel in this business? How does this
Right.
business make me feel? What joy do I get from this business? Or is it just something that's an engine to get me to some material end? And if that's it, if the business is just some machine to get me to a material endpoint or a material result along the way, then I'm not so interested, right?
Yeah.
Like, where's the creative joy and where's the greater meaning in what we're doing, right? Like, we all want meaning, we all want joy in what we do. And so that's the point of the business. Unfortunately, in the greater corporate environment, most businesses, especially giant corporations, they are just rolling towards some material endpoint for the
Yeah.
executives and for the shareholders who are and the executives who are also shareholders. And that leaves everybody else out. So no matter what type of accounting you're doing or what type of tracking people are doing, most people in those giant businesses aren't necessarily maybe feeling what you or I might feel, the joy of growing a business or having been entrepreneurs and starting and owning a number of different businesses. They don't get that. They don't get that. And so then what do you have to track? What do you have to track success? And this, I think, comes back to
Yes, it does.
feeling, right? It comes
Yeah.
back to ultimately, how am I feeling at any given moment? The feeling, being totally present with who we are and what we are experiencing. And that's all the different senses, the sensing in my body, the feelings, the emotions that I'm feeling, the thoughts that I'm having, the actions that I'm taking, and then the desires that I have. How are those all aligning? Or what are those, when those come together in the moment, what does that information tell me?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, like you were saying, I'd have meetings with my other accountant,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I
Not
would
sleep for
just be
3 days.
nervous. I'd just
Yeah.
be nervous for days, right? And and
I hated
oh,
that.
so many thoughts coming into my mind.
uh,
So we would have that same, we have that same, in Where Next we'd have that same thing, because Gabo has a very strict view of accounting. So sometimes when we needed that, we'd get the Gabo point of view.
yeah.
Gabo's our essentially our CFO, our financial
Numbers guy.
operations numbers guy in Bogota. When we needed a strict point of view and need the crap scared out of us, we'd just go to him. When we needed a different point of view, we would, a less austere point of view, we would look at bench and our other numbers, and then
Yeah.
we would also we would look at our CRM system and see how much, look at the pipeline of business, because that's the other thing, one of the other tools as you grow, especially for a services business, is to have a CRM tool and a pipeline. So we'd look at that pipeline, and that would give us greater confidence against versus the most strict view of, like, when do we run out of cash? If everything stopped now, when do we run out of cash? Well, we're not going to run out of cash because we have these 4 or 5 projects in the pipeline.
Right.
So we put those two together, and then we arrive in the middle, and we can have a clear point of view. But ultimately, with all of the information, we have to take in the information of like, when I meet with this person that I'm going to do business with or who advising me about my business, and if I have a cold sweat and I'm not feeling well after it, there's one of two things that are wrong. One, my business is in the wrong place, or two, if my business is really in the right place and functioning the way I want, I'm dealing with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Right? I'm dealing with the wrong relationship. I am in the, and this extends beyond business. It's like every time I meet with this person or I'm around this person, I have I have these sensations in my body. My stomach is turning, I have a cold sweat, and I get a headache 20 minutes afterwards.
Yeah.
And
Seriously?
I'm
Yeah.
sad. I'm sad or I'm
Stressed out,
worried.
can't sleep. That's
Right? And
probably a
so
bad sign.
right? Yeah, that's probably. And so that's all information, right? That's all important information, because the business or our relationships are meant to serve us. They're meant to bolster our lives and help us move forward, and they are there to provide joy. They're not there to just provide some kind of material benefit. And so these are the I am more and more turning inward to understand what's important and how I should navigate.
You know
And
what?
this is the once we learn how to use the tools, the material tools, and have the talent around us give us good information, then the next level of information is our own spiritual, emotional, physical, sensing selves, right? Like there's some information that just turns into a cold sweat under your armpits. You don't even think about it,
Yeah.
but that's information. That's super important information about a business relation. I just remember this is a long story and it's really weaving in a lot of places, but I think both you and I are excited about this. I had one business meeting. My pal Norman and a group of us had created an encoding technology. This is right at the beginning, let's say around 2000 to 2003. We were trying to figure out a way to encode MIDI data into a Redbook audio stream. And
Okay.
for those of Redbook audio stream is the quality that's recorded onto a CD. So it's CD quality audio, but we also wanted to hide data in the audio so that we could use the data to drive special effects. And so we had a great team of people. My friend Bob, who had worked with Steely Dan on custom equipment, and Bob was the vice president of the Audio Engineering Society. And we had a really awesome team that put together this little device that we could use with a MIDI keyboard, a MIDI tools kit that was also part of a product that these guys had, and then created a patent for this little device that could encode audio onto a Redbook CD. And it allowed Norman to do these concerts where he could drive these flashing glasses. So this was all we thought was really awesome. Little did we know that now, that 20 years into the future now, there are 100 ways to do this, all digitally, that don't require any hardware. And, our little patent now, so we got this patented. And there was a great need for this type of technology because Napster was around and people were pirating music and people
Yeah.
wanted to watermark music. And so this was a method to watermark music. So I actually went to Japan to see if Denon Nippon Audio Denon Nippon Columbia, which was a publishing company, music publishing company, if they wanted to buy this. But also, we had somebody who we knew, and I won't because this person is still a friend of mine, and in a group of and people, we met with somebody who was connected to Paul Allen's companies here in Seattle, and
Okay.
Norman and I met with him because we thought maybe we can sell this patent, or maybe we can create a company around just this patent of
Yeah.
this type of encoding technology.
Yeah.
And so this person, we met with this person, and they had a giant contract, giant pile of, just a huge 30-page contract of like, and he wanted 50% of the company,
Wow.
right? Just to start. It was a Shark Tank moment for us,
Yeah. Right. It was like just to have the
except it wasn't
conversation.
really with the sharks. It was just with somebody who was just trying at the time trying to be a shark because he was
Hmm.
part of um, these companies. And so when we left that meeting, Norman and I talked, and I go, how did you feel about that? And Norman goes, I just didn't feel good I didn't feel good about any of it. It just all felt really awful.
Like gross. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And I said, yeah, I was kind of nauseous the whole time. So then we thought, well, okay, we're going to ignore this, or not, we're not going to ignore it, but we're going to put that aside. We know we felt nauseous. We know we didn't like the way we felt in this meeting, but let's go meet with a friend of Norman's, Doug Raff, who is one of the $500-$600 an hour attorneys high in one of the high towers here in town at one of the big firms. And we walk into the room where there's 30 seats at the board table, and you see the full view of Puget Sound and Mount Rainier from this boardroom, this meeting room. And it's just three of us in this giant room. And we hand wrap the papers, and he looks through it and he goes, nah, this is all pretty much boilerplate stuff. This is just like a boilerplate contract. Let me ask you one question. Do you like this guy? Just purely from a business, like, do you want to
Yeah.
be in business with this
Yeah.
person?
Exactly.
And we said, okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's all
Oh,
we.
that was it. That was it. That that was the advice from a
That's
friend, but
great
also
advice.
somebody who's the $600 an hour attorney who
Yeah.
does this. But and so it came down to, no matter, we could have applied tons of metrics to this. We could have tried to we could have tried to meet with other people, tried to put a better value on our patent, and just shop it around. But in the end, it was just like, how do you feel,
Yeah.
right? At the highest, what that moment told me is that at the highest levels of business, where the people are spending millions of dollars on legal work and accounting, it still comes down to the most the most powerful lawyer in the equation saying, do you like this person?
Yeah.
No,
How do you
right?
feel? Like that's such a
How
good
do you
question.
feel about working this person? And so, to me, that was one of the most important business lessons of my life. And it didn't cost us anything because Raf was a friend of Norman's. And but it did cost us something because we all had to work on this, putting this patent together. And then a lot of the guys gave their time to just designing the circuit boards and coming up with the encoding algorithms and all of the hard work. And me, I wasn't doing any coding. I was just managing, basically put the team together and got everybody to meet. But that lesson, that was worth the lesson. We never made any money on that patent. Norman produced a series of concerts using the hardware that Steve and Alan and Bob came up with, an incredible series of concerts. But only money was spent creating this project.
Mhm.
And then years later, we still had this patent in the Digital Harmony portfolio. And somebody approached us about buying the patent.
Oh,
It
wow.
was just somebody approached us. They knew there were a couple of patents. Somebody approached us about it. And and they and they only offered us 10 grand for it.
That's funny.
And we just
You're
said,
gonna like,
we just said, we just said, fuck it. For 10 grand, we're keeping it. It's worth more to us
yeah,
from a sentimental standpoint than, like, really? You're only going to give us 10 grand for this? It's just like, because
yeah,
it was just a patent real estate grab,
yeah,
like a Nathan Meervold patent
yeah,
real estate grab, just so that you could own a bunch of turf
yeah.
and then, control it. And we're like, fuck it. No, this is our little patent.
Yep.
We're gonna keep
I
it.
think that's great. What a great story. And like, along the way, as you're telling it, it kind of ties back to something we've discussed many times. And this goes back years and years, but like that core thing, what the lawyer said to you, right? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel about working with this person? And then like rewind a little further, you were talking about like what's important, right? and and this goes back to like the of all the things I think I've ever written down, the thing that guided me, um a quote by a brilliant friend who once said, it's not about what's next, it's about what's important. Stephan Shear, those were your words. And you know those those words have actually like that's what like prompted me to design my life, right? To realize that I can design my life with a set of core values, with a set of like just reminding myself that I have these core values. That's what I check in with when it's like you go with this contract or whatever, like um whatever it is, you go back to those core values and you say, does this check out? Do I weigh this against what I value as important, right? Like, do I like this person? Is it fun? Is it going to move me in the direction I want to be moving in? For whatever my personal values reasons are, those are the things those are my compass. Those are the compass that guides me. And so asking that question like that at every turn, right? Like that to me, it's not about what's next, it's about what's important. I go back to that over and over and over. And and when you made that statement, that was what the first thing I did was I wrote down what is important to me. And we talk about like frameworks and letting go of frameworks and all of the things that we've evolved and worked through and grown through, and those are the things that I feel help me grow the most, right? Or when I wrote down those values, the things that are important to me, like any number of goals or efforts could support those values. And those values are open. I feel like they guide me in a direction, but there's enough openness around them that there's no like end point, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like it's open. It's like I'm going in a direction, but it's always the direction I want to be going in, even though I don't have like an end point in mind, if that makes sense. um
Well,
go
yeah,
ahead.
again, because the future is a fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
as is the past. So even looking back I mean, it is motivating to look back at all the material things we've accomplished.
Sure. The
That is
footprints.
that can be very motivating. That, though, puts us in a place, it puts us in the present of, yes, what is, now that I have taken all these footsteps, it it is a good way to look at, now where am I? Where am I standing?
Yeah.
Where am I standing? And what is important, but what am I looking at? And if I'm too busy looking at the footsteps, I'm not necessarily looking at what is around me or
I
what's in
think that's
front of
a
me, or
great point.
what
Right.
I'm feeling in the moment. Like the looking at the footsteps or looking at the material things we have accomplished can also be a false idol.
It can. And I think when I bring it up as like, I think it's important, and maybe this is as a practice, right? As you practice on sort of getting good at letting go, maybe is what I'm trying to say. Like as a practice, as sort of a foundational starter, I feel like keeping track is important, because it's very easy when you get knocked off your game. It's very easy to be down on yourself and to feel like you haven't accomplished anything. And so the footprints give you a sense of like, you know what, I've come really far. Like, I mean, just in terms of like our tiny challenges or whatever, like those were a thing that helped me realize like, you know what, I've come a lot further than I was giving myself credit for. And I want to take a moment and just like feel those things, like appreciate those things and say, you know what, just keep going. Right. And yet I don't want those things to define, um sorry, hang on, bear with me 1 second. I had an emergency
This
pop up there. All is good.
ah
Sorry. All right. So as far as like the footprints though, like I think there's a point at which you can let go of documenting and tracking, probably, right? But I think if you're kind of just getting started, it's a great foundational building tool. Does that make sense?
well, yeah, we need to know the landscape in which we operate. So having a good picture of what's around us is super important. The I think from a spiritual standpoint, I would ask the question of, what if you have never accomplished anything that is part of what you decided is important? What if you have no material accomplishments other than you are Jamie in this moment and in this time, and you strip yourself of all your material accomplishments? Then who are you and how do you feel about yourself? If you can still have that same joy and that same passion for being in the moment and the same creative energy for stuff that may be in front of you, then I'd say that's an awesome result. But if for us, without all of the accounting and notebooks and CRM pipeline, if we can still be okay with all of that being gone, stripping all of that away, then I'd say we've done a good job spiritually. So to me, that's the trick, is beyond all material measure of the business, because you can have all the material measure and we can have all the goals and the spreadsheets and we have all that and you have all that, and we know that gives us, we have good information and we have good people around us. But if we strip all of that away, and all of my accomplishments and all of my stories about this and that and my entire path getting here, am I still happy? Am I still clear? Do I still feel like I have opportunities for joy in this moment? Can I generate that? Do I feel it? Am I satisfied with who I am right now? Do I feel lucky to be in this moment? And so those are the questions
Do
I'm
you?
asking myself.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Do you, punk? So the question is, have I created 5 businesses or 6? Has my time run out to be an entrepreneur?
Do you feel
Do I
lucky?
feel lucky?
That's so funny. I love it.
do you, punk? So that so that's what I return to, because again, all of these tools, all of these material measures are arbitrary. They are designed to feed our idea of what's important. And in business, we agree to a realm of what's important. We agree to a greater realm in business of what's important, which is you get more money than you spend for the service that you provide so that you can have money to survive, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
grow. And so that's an agreed upon set of rules. But beyond those things, are we happy? Is the business serving our fundamental core spiritual being? And for that, the ultimate measure is how we feel in any given moment. That's the ultimate measure. If we've just done our homework on the material parts, because those are always going to exist, because we live in a, thanks to Madonna, we all know that we live in a material world.
Right.
Thank you, Madonna.
Oh man. You know, yeah. Man, I like the self check-in. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've ever framed it in the way that you phrase it, where it's like, if without everything that you have around you, like, are you still okay? Like, and that really goes back to a lot of like that last, I think one of the last conversations I had with my dad, which I've shared several times, I'm sure, but like, I was like, how were you able to just like walk away from a job when you had like a mortgage and a family and kids? And he was like, I didn't care if we had to live in a tent. Like, I knew we'd figure it out, and it was just, it was like his detachment from things was admirable to me. And and it's easy to forget that what we have around us, where we live, what we've surrounded ourselves with, is really not important. It's really just not important. What's important, and what was always important to my dad, is exactly what you just talked about, is like, how do I feel? Do I like this? Do I like the people I'm doing this with? And is it
Mhm.
fun? And is it meaningful? And I in so many ways, that's exactly what I come back to. That's what drives me. Those are in my little core values list. Am I having fun? Am I putting something good into the world? Because the world has enough garbage without me contributing to the garbage pile. Like, I want to contribute something that is meaningful to me, at least, that I feel is meaningful, maybe to others, but I don't know. So
Well,
yeah.
who you are is the ultimate contribution. Everything else is just a material game. But who you are in that game, how you show up, how you radiate who you are to those of us around you, that is your contribution. Everything else is just the material landscape in which who we are operates.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of being human, or is that there are an infinite number of ways to express ourselves, and the universe has no judgment about what's good or bad, right? Like, if like a tree grows, a flower grows, and then lightning hits the tree and destroys the tree. Then from that, a couple of seedlings next to that lightning destroyed tree grow up. And the universe doesn't care. The universe doesn't have any judgment of whether that creation or that destruction of the tree is good or bad. That's all up to us. We decide what's good, what's bad, what brings us joy. And the ultimate contribution is how we show up in that giant realm of possibilities,
Bam. That's it.
right?
I mean, that's it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's
Because,
how we
but yeah,
show up.
because because I can show up and say, "Oh, we closed this giant deal," but it doesn't. It means that our company will be healthy. It means that we get to hire people. But is this creating joy for the founders of the company? Is this creating more freedom for each of us to be ourselves and radiate that to those around us? Right? Because I could spend a bunch of money and get a bunch of cool things, but if I don't have anybody to enjoy those with, or if I'm not enjoying myself because I'm stressed about my business, what is the point? What's the
Yeah.
point of
Yeah.
any of it? Right? Because then all it is I'm just doing this to get some material result.
Yeah.
And that's not to me, that is not the point of the business. That's not the point. And I love talking about tools, and
Yeah. I do too.
I love talking about having great people around me and frameworks around which to measure the material success of my business. But the material success of my business is, to me, is only to serve one thing: to give me the freedom to be myself,
Yeah.
to
That.
entertain. That's it.
Hold on, I'm
That's
writing
the
that down
only thing.
because that's exactly it. And I feel like that's where Ken and I have been too. Like everything we do is to just perpetuate the freedom of choice, right? The freedom to choose what we work on, who we work with. And like everything we do is kind of and to have like autonomy of time. Like I own my time. Nobody else owns my time but me. And I think that's really at its core the driving motivation for all of these sort of like business ventures and adventures. it's a it's really that's it is that's the motivator is like, yeah, does this help me continue doing this? Because and when something doesn't feel right anymore, it's time to gravitate in a different direction, and being aware of that is important. And and that's something, like I've worked through over the last, I don't know, both months and weeks and years, but like ongoingly as well, is just kind of checking in, is like, what is my role, what is my contribution, is it what I want it to be, and if not, how do I own that, how do I own where I'm spending time and how I'm contributing and how I'm showing up, as you phrased it. And I think, yeah, like I sometimes fumble my way through, I don't know, getting back to that. Like, it's easy to get knocked off your path or knocked off your course. And I don't even like saying that, because that implies that there's a specific trajectory, and there's really not. It's just, I do feel like I forget, or I lose sight of, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the day to day and kind of lose sight. You got to check in. You got to check in and say, where am I at? How am I feeling? How am I showing up? What am I putting out there?
Yeah, who is the boss of this show? I have friends who've been in, well, one friend who's been a sole proprietor, or been his own business for 20 or 30 years, and he still has moments where we're hanging out. It's like, I gotta go, I got work to do. And I'm like, you've been in this business 30 years, right? Or 25, whatever. I mean, it's a long time. You're the boss. I'm like, talk to your boss. See if he can give you another extra half hour to hang out with us.
Right.
Just talk to the boss,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like, no one will die. No one will die because you've been doing this 20 years. People need you. People need you to do whatever you do. I'm not going to out this person, but
Sure, sure.
like, step into your office and talk to the boss and see if the boss will give you a half an hour to hang out with us, dude.
Right.
Right? But it's like the so and that is that is an obvious example of someone who's let the material aspect of the business is still running the business. The material aspect of the business is still running the business. The business isn't serving that person's spiritual goals. And somebody might argue with me about that. Well, I'm responsible for a lot of people and I have lots of clients, and yes, all of those things are true. Yet you still have not, after 20 years, designed the business to give you even a half an hour of freedom in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand if you have an appointment, or, you
Yeah.
make an appointment to meet or talk with somebody, but the uh, it just tells me that the core design of the business was not for the spiritual growth of the people who were
Right.
part of the business, for the freedom and the spiritual growth. Like, do you think Warren Buffett, when do you think Warren Buffett doesn't have freedom to do what he wants to do, right? Even though he's responsible and the leader of and the icon for maybe hundreds of super successful businesses that bring in billions of dollars in profits, right? He is doing what he loves every day. He's drinking his Coca-Cola. He's got his he owns C's Candies. He's right. He has joy in his business every day, and an incredible amount of freedom to pursue his creative whims.
Yeah. And that's really that's it right there. To me, that it always comes back to that, is that, and I call it autonomy, but like autonomy of time and of self. And like, to me, that freedom, that it's funny because with raising kids, that's like, to me, the idea of success that I hold for them, even though that's not my responsibility really. But like, what I try to demonstrate is that the freedom of choice is, to me, that's the ultimate success. It's not necessarily a financial success, or that you make gazillions of dollars or have this material display of stereotypical success. It's about owning your time, being able to work on the things that you want to work on, and not being miserable in your day to day, not having to feel like you have a job that you hate going to, but you need it to survive. Like, to me, that success is not, yeah, not having to subscribe to that channel, so to speak. And that's what I try to instill in them as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I feel like we
Hmm.
we covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah. We went from tools, which are the fundamental frameworks of being an entrepreneur, to the actual, what is the ultimate goal of being an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
which I hope I hope people understand is a certain level of emotional joy and creative outlet and personal freedom.
Freedom to work with your
All right.
dog. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's it though. I do. I think that's, I mean, and this is like one of those things too. Our goals may not be everyone's goals, and that's fair enough. Those who maybe find alignment may find themselves here and rooting in the
Oh,
in
you
the
mean you
background.
mean here at our podcast,
Yeah, here.
stumbling into our podcast and going, what are these guys talking about?
Right? Like, because I don't know. I know it may not be for everyone, but I do think there's I don't know. I like this path. I like this path. And the conversation checkpoint. I like it.
Yeah, well, we always arrive. We start and we wind our way usually to a golden nugget. We always come to a golden nugget
It's
every
not about
time.
what's next.
So
It's about what's
we're
important.
yeah, and in the moment, who are we? How do we, devoid of all material accomplishments and possessions. Who are we, and how are we in that moment?
I'm writing this down because I made little notes. Like last week, I wrote down the gut health episode, and this week I wrote down the small biz episode. But I was writing down some other notes too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah, feel free to fill in, feel free to go
oh yeah, I
into the
forgot I was gonna do
episodes,
that.
on Anchor. Feel free to go into the episodes on Anchor and on
The YouTubes.
YouTube and
Yeah,
add stuff to the descriptions.
yeah. I
And
meant
for
to
our
do that.
audience, just feel free, and for our audience, feel free to go listen to a few other episodes and see if you can find your golden nugget in there too.
Yeah, comment,
And
comment about it.
yeah, yeah, leave us a comment. I dare you to leave a comment. This is like episode 28
29.
or 29,
Ah,
and we dare you to leave a comment.
I love it. With that, Stephan, I think we have our close.
Yes, I think we are complete for this Thursday
Thank
on the
you.
Unconstrained podcast. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Take care.